The MP1 from Saris has been in development for a few years now. First spotted over at Eurobike 2018, now in early 2020, it's on the shelf and ready for consumers to buy. My experience on rocker plates has been covered extensively in 2 previous videos. In summary, as a competitive outdoor and indoor cyclist, the movement of a bike for me is not the same on a rocker plate as it is outdoors, more specifically in regard to sprinting and out of the saddle efforts. So anytime I see the term or the catchphrase more natural movement or the same as outdoors, I cringe a little because it's not my experience at all. Now don't get me wrong on this, like many people have. Rocker plates have their place indoors, and that's around offering a non-rigid setup. That is a trainer that sits straight up and down that people will get fatigue on because nothing moves. So they do absolutely have their place if you want a bit of wiggle room on the bike indoors. Owners of the Tacx Neo already know this. The Tacx Neo already has that level of flex indoors that offers a little bit more comfort than a rigid setup. On the MP1 website from Saris, they also agree here, saying that side-to-side movement isn't new, but it also doesn't capture the natural movement you experience outdoors. But Saris have brought something to the table that's more than just side-to-side. Jumping over here to the specifications of the unit before we get some hands-on. Technology listed here is Saris Nfinity, which is their premium line of products. The maximum fore-aft travel, backwards and forwards, is 9.5 inches or around 24 centimeters. Max side-to-side angle movement is around 6 degrees. Compatible with all major brands and models of bike trainers, and they do have a ton of fit guides online. As you can see here, it fits most trainers that you may be aware of. Materials made of steel, aluminium and birch. The weight, 28 kilos of the unit unboxed. The dimensions of the unit, 15 centimeters by 160 centimeters by 90 centimeters, or more importantly, the size of the box, which is what you need to know if you're going to be putting this in the car, taking it home. 165 centimeters by 100 centimeters by 19 centimeters. They list here as coming fully assembled. It comes fully assembled. You still need to put the front wheel bracket on and get that installed. I'll show you that in a moment. The grip tape is strategically placed to assist in walking on the trainer platform. Again, that's pretty neat. I'll show that in a minute. The MP1 does have a maximum weight limit of 158 kilos for the rider, the bike and the trainer that you place on top, and also comes with a number of front wheel blocks to get that preferred height that you like indoors. With all the hardware specs covered off, I'm going to jump over to the Saris website and have a look at the wording carefully about what they're claiming this unit does, or more importantly, what they haven't said it does. Now, as quoted before, the side-to-side movement isn't new, but also doesn't capture the natural movement you experience outdoors, which Saris and I obviously both agree on. The MP1 with Nfinity technology truly moves the way you do because it adds the fore and aft axis to this equation. They've used the term there, truly moves the way you do, not truly moves the way you do outdoors. I think that's a key point there that has started a few arguments on this topic. So what they're saying is, this isn't natural, this adds to the equation to make it move as you move. The MP1 combines over 20 years of indoor training expertise to not only create the movement platform category, but to perfect it. The hobbyist movement on this has been around for quite some time, and I think Saris may have even taken a leaf out of a number of books where people have already created these. So, okay, the result is an unparalleled trainer platform that reimagines the indoor training experience altogether. Sure, there's some marketing speak there, but they are not claiming it acts more natural as an outdoor movement device. That's key. Further down on the website is more marketing specifications, I'd call these, away from the technical side. So they list here, Nfinity technology, revolutionary tech that brings movement indoors. Yes, of course it does. Movement for all, compatible with a variety of training configurations, bikes, desks. Yep, sure. Trailblazing, the MP1 ushers in a type of training never seen or felt before. There's a few hobby projects that get very close to this. Pure fun, responsive, immersive, and authentic training experience that is anything but boring. Again, there's nothing related to outdoors or technique there. I'm going hard on this for good reason too. It's been the topic of many discussions online. You can't disagree with that. Responsive, sure. Immersive, sure. Authentic training experience relative to itself, sure. Get comfortable. Reduces pressure on touch points so you can put in the miles. The messaging is around comfort, and that can't be disputed. And as I've discussed in my other videos, absolutely these things have their place for long miles or kilometers indoors. And personalized ecosystem, okay, that's not part of the deal there, but I think that my takeout from that is the messaging is around, it is what it is, and comfort is probably their key they're focusing on. Okay, here we are finally into the Llama Lab and onto the unboxing of the MP1. Now, unfortunately, there's no indication of which is forward and which is backward, so I've unpacked this, obviously, in the wrong orientation. Not to worry, out with all the protection and brackets, and what you're seeing here is the underside with the maintenance points pointed out that do require some attention every 30 hours or so of use. And yes, I will be doing this quite a lot throughout the video because, look, let's be honest, it is a bit of fun. It's a hoverboard for the Llama Lab. Okay, now on to the rest of the parts. There are the front wheel chocks, the manual, and the straps that come with. And here's the full kit overview. So obviously the MP1 rocker plate, 2 straps for the trainer's quick release manuals, a cleaning cloth for the maintenance, and the front wheel mount and the riser blocks for those, which are optional. Yes, I did say I'll be doing this a few times in the video. Look, it is pretty cool, and I was learning the limitations side to side, back and forward, just loosening everything up, getting it ready for use. Now, they do say it was fully assembled, but you do have to get the front wheel block put in place and in the right position. So it takes a little bit of fiddling around to get that in place. Okay, trainer on, using the H3 here to keep all on point with Saris gear. Straps go in and around. They're universal straps, so they support any trainer, as we saw in the specs. And they're a little fiddly, let's be honest. A little sort of T-bolt that slots in, slides in, and then locks down with, I think it's a 5mm or a 4mm hex key there. All right, everything in place. Rear wheel off, brake block in, and bike on trainer with a through axle here on the H3. Now getting the front wheel lined up, and I do make the mistake of putting the buckle directly on the carbon and tightening it down. I did realize my mistake about now and chose to reposition things. So do watch that if you're putting carbon rims or any kind of rims on there. I don't like metal on metal or metal on carbon. It could get a bit scratchy. Okay, first few pedal strokes, something just didn't feel right in regard to the front end. I wasn't even up to testing the movement fore and aft or side to side, but the front end just felt a little off center, and that's exactly what had happened. It took me a moment to figure out exactly what I needed to do, and then I had to spend the next minute or 2 or 3 getting everything lined up. There's no indication of straight lines, I guess you'd call it, on the plate. That's something I have fed back to Saris. They need some kind of centering line to know that our bikes are straight when mounted. There we go. And a few little tests later, and we're on. Ready to ride, things are good. Onto a quick test showing the angles of the MP1 with me on top of it with the trainer and bike, etc. You can see that as I step on, it goes to 3 degrees, back to 0. And then as I swing from side to side without pedaling, I get about 3 degrees of movement each side. I really have to push a lot harder to get more than 3. And showing my movement out of the saddle for a small acceleration and then a ride back in the saddle. You can see here out of the saddle I'm getting about 1 degree of movement, and then in the saddle nice and smooth, not much there at all. However, that does translate to a little bit of movement on the saddle that's a lot higher up, which adds to the comfort. Okay, onto my take on things after many hours and many hundreds of kilometers on the MP1 platform. First up, the MP1 platform is very, very well built. It is stable, getting on and off the bike is no problems whatsoever, and the grip tape on top is excellent. You're not going to slip off the thing. It's not sandpaper style grip tape. If you've been a skateboarder in the past like myself, it's a rubber platform. So stepping on with a cleat, no problems at all. That's good. The forward and back motion is where the MP1 shines for me. Not this, it's all about this movement here. When climbing a hill or pushing a very big gear, you're sort of pumping on the pedals and pumping on the bike. Outdoors, your bike will accelerate and decelerate just a little bit. Indoors, with that fore and aft motion, the bike will jump forward and jump back. And for me, that feels real. That is absolutely brilliant. That was my wow moment on the MP1. The fore and aft, I absolutely love that movement. And touching on the side-to-side motion, which is the 6 degrees either way, depending on your weight, it felt a little stiff for me, and there's no real change from my experience there with the MP1, as has been with other rocker plates. And again, taking from the Saris website itself, side-to-side movement isn't new, but also doesn't capture the natural movement you experience outdoors. Again, I agree with that. But there is no question about it. That very slight side-to-side motion, be it rocking or tilting or flexing, does contribute to less saddle stress. It is more comfortable to ride. But do note there are no adjustability features of this, so a heavier rider will have a different experience indoors than a lighter rider on the MP1. Now on to race efforts on the MP1, really putting the unit to the test, switching the brain off and going as hard as you can. And I employed that for around 20 minutes or so on the after party hump day ride. The movement side to side is welcome, but again, it's that back and forward motion that really makes this thing shine. Closing gaps, really biting on the handlebars. The unit would rock backwards and forwards like you were pumping along. Up a hill, same deal. Out of the saddle, probably a little twitchy. There's no rhythm or there's no pendulum effect because the bike gets twitchy with the stiffness of the plate. It wants to flip upright and return to center. And if you don't get the timing right, it's just something, trying to get that motion working right, there's a learning curve there. I'm sure if I spent more time on this or other rocker plates, I would get it right. But trying to employ my tactics that I use outdoors, it didn't quite work under a race scenario. There's also a slingshot effect with the bike being forward and backwards. If you jump out of the saddle and lurch your weight forward, the unit will lurch forward, lurch back, and that can screw up the timing of your pedal stroke. If you are trying to time things just right with the dead spots, depending on the trainer that you've got, with the unit moving, I guess I'll go this way, with the unit moving backwards and forwards, it can really screw the rhythm up sprinting. So you need to learn how to sprint and ride and go really hard on the MP1. Another thing to touch on is the front wheel is locked in straight. So using my hand motion here to the camera, the bike moves like this, side to side, and like this, back and forward. So with a combination of those, it's still a stiff bike. It still feels really unnatural when you're grabbing the bars and trying to steer or move around. Outdoors, out of the saddle, the bike, the head unit will just move a little bit because outdoors your bike will snake and the rear wheel will follow the front, and things, even just the slightest movement outdoors contributes with the fork rake to how the bike moves side to side. With the bike locked in on the MP1, it does this and this, none of this. That is something that is very noticeable. I'm keen to see if installing a front steerer block on the MP1 would fix this. It could be a game changer, but what I'm reviewing today is the MP1 as it stands. In summary, the overall experience was better than riding a static indoor trainer. My contact points were singing the praises of the MP1 and the H3 and riding my bike indoors after coming off riding a locked-in smart trainer for a few weeks prior. That movement is 100 times better than being locked in, riding a brick fence with a saddle and a set of handlebars on it. So finally, onto the elephant in the room and the topic of price. Now, my take on this, unfortunately, I think where it's positioned at the moment at $11.99 US, it's the price that's getting the attention rather than the product. To pick another value from a lot lower than that, say $4.99, it would be a completely different story around this product. I'd be a lot more forgiving about having those universally adjusting straps to lock things in and having to line a bike up and having to fiddle with the front wheel. There's a lot to be done with a product that is $11.99. At $4.99 or a lot less than $11.99, we can accept a little more legwork or arm work getting this thing set up. At my much lower theoretical price of $4.99, this product would be something that would just exist, and if people weren't interested, they would shrug and walk away. At $11.99, it motivates people who would never comment or never even buy one of these to throw some shade towards Saris. So Again, I think the price is the headline here, not the product or the experience on it. For me, there's nothing about this product that justifies $11.99, or in Australia, with shipping and taxes, you're looking at near on $2,000, which is actually more than the trainer you put on top. Okay, so to wrap up my take on the MP1 motion plate Nfinity platform from Saris, look, I've had my say on the out of the saddle and the sprinting technique indoors with this kind of movement. No change in experience there. Same with this unit. The killer feature for me was that forward and back movement. It was brilliant. I loved it. That was that one thing that would keep me coming back to looking at other rocker plates, or maybe updates to this, or maybe throwing even more things on top of this to try out, especially that steerer plate. And as mentioned, comfort. No question about it. This thing is more comfortable to ride. I did the Epic KOM with the radio tower. No saddle point soreness, no. Things moving is a good thing indoors, and this ticks the boxes there. There's no question about that. And finishing up on the price. I guess the market's going to decide, so we'll sit back and watch. $11.99 or around $2,000 Australian is not something I would consider for this kind of unit. $4.99 US and under $1,000 Australian? I think I'd have one. Anyway, interesting stuff. There we go. My take on the MP1. Definitely keen to see how it goes with the steering block. Stay tuned for that. All right. As always, hit subscribe to be alerted of new videos coming up on the channel, and hit like if you found this informative. Thanks for watching.